Hey y'all, it's me, Tiffany, and welcome back to my channel. So I decided to do the queer book tag, and this tag's been around for a little bit, but I wasn't really aware of it till somebody I follow posted it. So I will link that person and the original person's tags in the description below, and let's go ahead and just jump into it. Question number one is, what is your favorite queer book that you've read this year? Well, this was a manga series and there was 5 volumes, Love Me for Who I Am. It is about a non-binary character and their navigation on how just discovering themselves and how they feel. They have a love interest and they have a job at a maid cafe and they go through school and they were born a male and they like to present as more feminine looking, but they still identify with non-binary. And this is the first time I've personally seen non-binary like in a manga or really any graphic novel. I know they exist outside of this one series, but I haven't personally been exposed to it or read them. It's very short, and I really think if you're into manga and you like slice of life stuff, this would be a good one to pick up. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite lesbian book? I'm going to have to say the Henna Wars. This is a YA contemporary and it's based in Ireland, and our main character is from Bangladesh, and her love interest is, her family's from Brazil, or I'm not sure if she was born in Brazil and came to Ireland or if it was just her family, but either way, she is Brazilian. And it's interesting seeing their dynamic because our main character, without too many spoilers, is more up and honest who she is up front. She's more comfortable. She just kind of punches the coming out thing, and our other person has to warm up to it, And the story is centered around a high school competition for a business thing, like you see in some movies and I've seen in other books. Personally, my high school didn't do this, but they make little businesses and whoever makes the most wins the little competition. And henna is a cultural thing for our main character, and the girls who are kind of mean to her kind of just see it as a cute little niche thing and they just want to do it for themselves, and they don't realize the importance of it in our main character's culture. And it has an interesting conversation about cultural appropriation. I like the fact that you can see our main character navigating through this culture while trying to keep her own family culture alive. And I think the way this book talks about cultural appropriation is very digestible, especially if you are a little younger or you're new to the conversation, but it's still really honest. And I think this would be a good place if you're not used to that. And it's a nice read. It's one of my favorites. I consumed it in a day. It was really great, and I do recommend this book. But trigger warning, there is a force outing, and obviously with most coming out stuff there are some homophobic remarks and whatnot that are thrown at characters when they do come out. Question number 3, what is your favorite male loves male book or gay male book? I guess that's easier to say. Probably the Song of Achilles. I don't want to get in too much detail on this because I don't know if this would be considered a spoiler or not, but it is a retelling based on the Trojan War. I really love this book a lot, and if you're into mythology and stuff, this is definitely worth dabbling into. Just know this book will break your heart and you're gonna ugly cry at some point. If you don't, I don't know, but you're gonna ugly cry. Okay, the next question is your favorite bisexual book. So to be honest, I haven't read too many books where a bisexual person was the main character, unfortunately. I don't know why that is, but somehow it just hasn't. I've read more of I guess lesbian books when it comes to like the queer books in general. Like most of them have fallen into the lesbian category. But I'm going to have to say The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. While this is, like, I do like Daisy Jones and the Six more, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a really good book. And if you're into, like, the Hollywood, like, maybe, like, it kind of makes me think if, like, Marilyn Monroe, like, actually got to live to a lovely age, like, kind of like that, like, you know, that kind of thing where, you know, she had to work for herself and life wasn't always easy, but she did what she needed to do, and it's definitely an interesting life, and it's like, I would recommend this to an audiobook, whether you're reading this or Daisy Jones. It definitely gives it more of a personal feel, and, you know, kind of like almost like, not like a documentary, but like an interview. It's like, it's an interesting, like, thing. Like, the way these books are written are definitely unique to my reading experience, and I enjoy them a lot. But Evelyn Hugo is bisexual, and like that's probably my favorite out of the very few I have read. I have read some where they're like side characters, but yeah, you get my point. I would definitely recommend this book if you haven't read it. It's been all over BookTube, all over Goodreads. I think it's won a Goodreads award. Like, this should be like, if you're like, at least in America, like an easier book to find, or you probably have heard of it before. My favorite transgendered book would probably have to be The Cemetery Boys. Unfortunately, I haven't read too many fictionalized books about transgendered people, but this book, our main character is a brujo, and he was born a woman, and he lives in a culture that's very gendered, where like women do this and men do this. So he has to navigate like how he feels through in that, and like how he's navigating through the culture, and there's ghosts, you know, there's a love interest and like a good friendship. And one thing I do like about this book is Aiden Thomas goes through little details that, like, he talks about binders and stuff in this little YA book, and I like the little touches like that, you know. If every character feels super authentic, and it's just a great book if you haven't read this either. This is another popular book, but I definitely recommend picking this up if you like, you know, ghost and magic, and you want to, you know, and you just want like really fleshed out characters. This is definitely a book I would recommend. What is your favorite On Voices queer book? So I'm assuming this goes to any type of queer. So I'm going to say All Boys Aren't Blue. This is a memoir essay type book, and the person who wrote this is their life and the way they tell their story and navigate their story to not really like moral lessons or like lessons in general, but just how it can be digestible. And if you're somebody going through similar struggles, or even if you just want to learn, like, I think this is a great place to start if you want to start reading nonfiction. The author's writing style is very straight to the point, and in a way that, you know what I mean, like, it's easy to understand, and it opens ideas about race, gender identity, family. Like, it's just, I really think like this is a great place to start if you want to start reading nonfiction, especially in a more intersectional type way. I definitely recommend this. I would like to speak more about this book, but since this is a person's life and it's essays, I don't really know how to do it without just like basically spoiling the book, you know, like it's kind of hard. But I listened through this through audiobook, and I would definitely recommend that. The author narrates the book themselves, and I think that it almost feels like a friend or a mentor telling you their life, you know. So I definitely recommend this. What is your favorite asexual representation? So I didn't realize this is another category I struggled in. I have not read a book where an asexual person has been in the forefront. I do have a book that is saved to my Audible that is about basically being asexual and like dating and like or dating and asexual. Like it encompasses that, but I haven't first off I haven't listened to it yet. And I don't think this fits because that's more of a nonfiction thing for than I think what this question is discussing. And I had to think so hard. I was like, have I never read a book with an asexual character? Which, like a lot of other identities, a lot of people want to be assholes and not find it valid, but asexuals are valid. And Radio Silence is the only book that I enjoyed that I could really find and think about there being an asexual character. It's technically a secondary character that is asexual, and this person has had a sexual relationship, and they've mentioned that they were asexual and demisexual, which is technically on the asexual spectrum, but Radio Silence, if you don't mind a secondary character, I'm definitely going to have to fix that. I didn't realize this was a category that I was lacking in. I do try to read more diversely. And, I was kind of surprised I haven't read more bisexuals and stuff like that, but it really blew my mind that I just haven't read a book about an asexual person, and I've got to fix that. So yeah, Radio Silence is a good book. I listened to that audiobook as well. It's a really good production. I would recommend this also on audiobook as well. But yeah, so another category I have failed in, pansexuality. I didn't realize I haven't read a book with a pansexual main character unless you count Deadpool comics, because he is pansexual. I haven't read Deadpool in its entirety, you really can't, but I haven't finished a storyline. It's more of every Deadpool thing I've read has been him in other people's comics, so I haven't even read his own, so I really can't include that. But I do have a book that I bought recently on Audible again with a credit. I bought it maybe a month or two ago, called Miss Meteor, and that is supposed to have a pansexual character in it, so that's on a TBR. But I'm just, man, I haven't realized I haven't read a book with a pansexual, and that really hurts my heart. That really does. So I am definitely going to have to work on that. A queer person of color representation, and this is going to be a graphic novel, but Laura Dean keeps breaking up with me. This is a lesbian graphic novel, and one thing that's neat about this is our characters are already out. They've already had a relationship established. People already know, which I do love coming out stories or reading them, but sometimes it's just nice to dive in a world and just kind of see what happens after the coming out. And most of us, me included, have been in very toxic relationships. We haven't been in a relationship where you break up and get back together and the person that you're with is just being a jerk. Or heck, maybe you were the jerk, I don't know. But it's interesting to see our main character go through the mindset of keep being devastated, keep being let down, keep feeling so much pain from this toxic person. And this was something I really needed to read. While I wasn't going through this at the time I was reading this graphic novel, I have gone through this a couple of times, and the mindset of our main character going through this and trying to figure out how to finally take care of herself was so realistic, and it was so honest. And I feel like more of us need to read about toxic relationships, and man, I cannot recommend that graphic novel enough. Especially if you have gone through a toxic relationship, too many times movies and books just want to glorify toxic relationships. And while this is a heterosexual white couple, You know, like The Notebook is considered one of the most romantic movies, books, whichever form of it you have consumed. Because, you know, they yell and they fight and they break up and then they come back together. And even though one of them was engaged and yada, 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 like, Hollywood really seems to idealize, like, romanticize these toxic relationships of just breaking up, getting back together, fighting, even though you're toxic for each other. Like, there's something about, like, even through all the arguments and stuff, you still choose each other, and that's not healthy. It is not. And anybody who has been in these relationships will tell you it is horrible. It is not romantic. It is not great. And it's nice having, like, a queer graphic novel, like, navigating this as well. I mean, we all want everybody to have perfect, healthy relationships, but unfortunately, they're not. And I can't think of the author's name who wrote the story for this graphic novel. I don't know anything about them, but man, they hit the honest truth while writing this graphic novel. And the artwork is cute too. And like I said, I would definitely recommend this. It is great. So, what queer books are you looking forward to reading this year? These are books I have on my TBR. Hopefully, I read them this year, but sometimes TBRs don't work out. But the one I'm most excited to read is I'll Be the One, because it is about a bisexual main character and it's supposed to be a very body positive book with, you know, not a super thin main character, and it's supposed to have something to do with K-pop. I haven't read it yet and I am very excited to get to that. And then there's a nonfiction I want to read called If These Ovaries Can Talk, and it's about a couple who has to go through other means because they are, you know, a lesbian couple, and they want to start a family. And that is something I don't know a lot about, and I am interested in reading that once I'm able to get my hands on it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. If there's any queer books in any category that you think I should read, or if you read these, let me know what you thought of them too. If you disagree with something I said, let me know in the comment section below and we can talk about it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time.